Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Today the subject of my lecture is preposition. In the yesterday's lecture we discussed the introduction of the preposition and a few prepositions as well. And in the last minute of the lecture we were discussing preposition during and for. So we discussed where we can use during and no, in the last minute of the lecture I guess we were discussing the use of from, since, for and during as well. So we will extend our discussion from where we left yesterday. For is used of a period of time. For example, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like this, right? So it shows a period of time. You can use for the period of time, not for the point of time. For the point of time, you use since, and for the period of time, you use for. For example, for 6 years, for 2 months, etc. These are the examples. Bake it for 2 hours, bake it for 1, 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever comes. If the time comes in period form, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes, seconds, months, years, etc., you will use for. And for plus a period of time can be used with a present perfect tense or past perfect tense for an action which extends up to the time of speaking. So it can also be used with a present perfect tense or past perfect tense, that tense in which action extends up to the time of speaking when the speaker is speaking. For example, if we say he has worked here for a year, it does mean his work began a year ago and he still works here. So it does mean the action extends up to the time of speaking. So for can be used with for such tenses as well, for such sentences as well. You can say present perfect tense and past perfect tense. For use in this way is replaceable by since with the point in time when the action began. So it can also be replaced with since. How? He has worked here since this time last year. So here it has been replaced with since. Since this time, it does mean it shows the point of time. During and for. During is used with known period of time. That is periods known by name such as Christmas, Easter, or periods which have been already refilled. Which have already been defined. Actually, this is not refilled. This should be defined. There is a typing mistake over here. For example, during the Middle Ages, during 1941, during the summer of that year, during his childhood, etc. So these are known period of time. All right. So the action can either last the whole period or occur at some time within that period. All right. So action can last for the whole period as well, and it can also occur at some time within that period. For example, it rained all Monday, but stopped raining during the night. So here action took place at some point of time. All right. It rained all Monday, but stopped remaining during the night. So it does mean we are referring to some point of time during the night. He was ill for a week, and during that week, he ate nothing. So now we are talking about a week, and during some time in the week, we are referring with the help of during, all right? And we are saying like this: during that week, he ate nothing. So it does mean here we are referring to the whole week, not to some point, but rather to the whole week. But here in the first example, we are referring to some point of time at night. So it shows that action for can show both the things. Action happening at some point of time and action happening for the whole period of time. For indicating purpose may be used before noun periods. So it can for of course can show purposes as well. So it may be used before noun period. How? For example, I went there, I hired a car, I rented a house for my holidays for the summer, etc. So here for is being used for the purposes. They may be the known periods. For as various other uses. For example, he asked for £5, uh, then I paid £1 for it. So this is not rate. Actually, this is paid. There is again a typing mistake over here. I bought one for Tom, etc. So these are purposes. For can also be a conjunction and introduce a clause. Prepositions used for time. The prepositions used for time are to, till, until, after, afterwards, etc. Afterwards can be a adverb as well. To, till, and until. To can be used of time and place. Till, until, of time only. All right. So to can be used for both time and place, and whereas till can be used for time only. We can use from to or from till or until. Wherever you use from, you will also have to use to or till or until. To especially or till and until are optional. For example, they work from 5 to 10, from 5 till 10. You can use both ways. At 5 to 10 would mean at 9:55, all right? At 5 to 10. So when you say from 5 to 10, it does mean the whole, for the whole 5 hours. When you say at 5 to 10, it would mean at 9:55. But if we have no from, we use till or until, not to. All right. If you are not using from, you will not use to, you will use till or until. For example, let us start now and work till dark. Here you are not using from, so you cannot use to. You will simply use till or until because to is not possible over here. Till or until is often used with a negative verb to emphasize lateness. For example, we didn't get home till 2 a.m. He usually pays me. Here again, there is a little typing mistake. He usually pays me on Friday, but last week he didn't pay me till the following Monday. So here you can see that you are showing you are showing lateness. You are emphasizing lateness with the help of till and until. We will stay here. We will stay here till it stops raining. Again, a typing mistake, right? This is not will. This is till. We will stay here till it stops raining. Here you are not using to because you have not used from. So whenever you use from, you can use to, till, and until. But if you are not using from, you cannot use to. You will simply use till or until. All right. So till and until can often be used as conjunction of time. Here, we will stay here till it stops raining. Here, the till is used as the conjunction of time. Go on till you come to the level crossing. All right. Again, here till is used as a conjunction of time. But know that if you come to, but know that if you come to is omitted, for example, uh, that if you come to is omitted, the tail must be replaced by two. How? Go on to the level crossing. Here in this example, you can see that tail must be replaced by two. Go on to the level crossing here. After and afterwards are the next prepositions, but here we will also discuss them as adverb as well. After after as preposition must be followed by a noun, pronoun, or gerund. So this is what we will do after. All right. Whenever you use after as a preposition, you will use a noun or a pronoun or a gerund after that. For example, don't bath immediately after a meal. Here you are using a noun after this after. All right. You can also say that don't bath immediately after eating. So here eating is gerund, a meal is noun. So you are using a noun or a gerund after this after. Don't have a meal and bath immediately after it. Here you are using pronoun after this, after as a preposition. So whenever want to use after as a preposition, you must this after must be followed by a noun, pronoun, or a gerund. Here are the examples as we have already discussed them. If you do not wish to use a noun, pronoun, or gerund, we cannot use after, but must use afterwards. What does afterwards mean? It means after that or then. Don't have a meal and bath immediately afterwards. All right. Here it does mean afterwards does mean after that, or you can say then as well. Afterwards can be used at either end of the class and can be modified by soon, immediately, not long, etc. For example, soon afterwards we got a letter. We got a letter not long afterwards, etc. So afterwards can be used anywhere in the sentence, maybe at the start, maybe at the end of the sentence. It can be modified with the help of not long, immediately, soon, blah blah blah. After can also be used as a conjunction. How? For example, after he had tuned the piano, it sounded quite differently. So here after is being used as a conjunction. Let's move toward the next slide. In this slide, we will discuss the prepositions used for travel and movement. We travel from our starting place to our destination. All right. So whenever you are using from, you will have to use to as well. For example, they flew, drove, cycled, walked, etc. From Paris to Rome. All right. We are using both from and to in one example, in one sentence. Why? Because you have used and now you will have to use to as well. When are you coming back to England? Here you have not used from, so we are simply using to in a question form. We also send post letters, etc., to people and places, etc. So you can use to with such verbs like send and post, etc. Arrive at or in, get to, reach without preposition. So let's see how can we use them without preposition. We arrive in a town or a country, at or in a village, at any other destination. How can we use arrive in or at, etc.? They arrived in Spain, in Madrid. All right, it is in is used with a country, with a bigger place. I arrived at the hotel, at the airport, at the bridge, at the crossroads. All right, at can be used with such destinations which are open, which are not that big, like which are not as big as a country. So we can also use get to can for destination, and we can also use reach as well. For example, he got to the station just in time for his train. I want to get to Berlin. All right. So you can use get to and reach as well. They reached the top of the mountain. Get in is verb here, can mean arrived at a destination. It is chiefly used for the trains. What time does the train get in? All right. Get in does mean what time does the train reach the terminus, the station. So get in can mean arrive at a destination. Note also get there, back, get there or get back. There, back are adverbs in such phrasal verbs. We can for home. What are the preposition can be? What are the prepositions that can be used before or with home? We can use a verb of motion, etc., plus home without a preposition. How? Normally, we do not use any preposition before home when a verb of motion comes. All right. When a verb of motion is placed before home, we do not use any preposition before home. But sometimes we can use in some situations. For example, I took it took us an hour to get home. So here we are not using any preposition before home because there is a verb of motion. We have and we have already used get here. All right, and before and we are not using to before home, but we are using to before get. They went home by bus. Here we cannot say they went to home by bus. Why? Because there is a verb of motion. Went is verb of motion. It shows some sort of motion. But if home is immediately preceded by word, a phrase, a preposition is necessary. But if there is any other word or a phrase before home, you can use any preposition as well. For example, she returned to her parents' home. Here we are not simply using home, rather her parents' home. So here we can use to as well. We can be, live, stay, work, etc., plus at home, etc. So this phrase can also be used like this. You can see the example here that here we are also using a preposition before home, but not verb of motion, but we are using it without verb of motion. Like you can do this sort of work at home or at or in your own home, etc. Transport, preposition used for transport. Buy, on, get in, on, into, on, onto, off, out of, etc. We can travel by a car. I like to use by before car, etc. Bus, train, plane, helicopter, etc. But if you want to use any other word before that, car, bus, etc., you will use in them. How? Like this. But in the car, in my car, in Tom's car, if you're simply saying car, bus, plane, etc., you will use by car, by plane, by helicopter, etc. But if you use any if you place any other word before that car, bus, etc., you will use in them. by sea, by air. All right. And we can also travel by a certain route or by a certain place. Though why is more usual. You can also say went by the M4. M4 is the name of any road. We went while reading. So why can also be used. We can go, we can walk or go on foot. All right. For foot, you will use on foot. You can also say we can cycle, and you can also say that we can we can go on a cycle, on a bicycle, or you can simply say that we bicycle there, or by bicycle can also be used. We can ride or go on horseback. All right. For horseback, you can say both. We can ride, and you can also say we went there on horseback. We get into a public or private vehicle or get in. When you are traveling by public or private vehicle, you can say we get into, we get on or onto a public vehicle. All right. Or get on is adverb, on is adverb in that case. But we can we go on board a boat, on board a boat. It does mean embark. When you go on a when you embark on a journey, you can say that we go on board, or we go on board a boat. We get on or onto a horseback, camel, bicycle. You can use both things. We get on a horseback, on a camel, on a bicycle, etc., or onto can also be used. We get out of a public or private vehicle, or get out. Both can be used. We get off a public vehicle. For a public vehicle, you use we get off. All right. For a private vehicle, it get out of can be used. Get in, into, out of can also be used of buildings, institutions, and countries instead of go, come, return, etc. When there is some difficulty in entering or leaving, in and out here are used as adverbs. For example, I have lost my keys. How are we going to get into the flat? To get in, etc. You can see the other examples over here. These are given in the following examples. So at, into, to, etc. prepositions, and or long gone prepositions and adverbs until conjunctions. So these are the other prepositions, and for these prepositions, you can find the examples over here in the slide number 4. And in the next lecture, we will discuss some other prepositions, prepositions like at, in, into, difference between on, to, in, into, at, in, etc. And we will also discuss the preposition like above, over, under, below, beneath, between, among, etc. Thank you very much for watching today's lecture. If you have any question, please ask me in the comments below.